Chapter 1. Coming to Terms. Nothing could seem any darker. Nothing shed a ray of light in the constricted square known as a room. Your room, to be exact. You've came to terms that you weren't too fit to be able to drive home after the crazy, but yet ostracized and slow party at the local bar with your ready to be drunk and forget your responsibility pals that you've known since high school. They weren't exactly friends, but yet just studs for friends. They were never present in your personal life at all, just asking of how your day was, and then went about mouthing over theirs, no matter if you were concerned over life's challenges or not. You are a quiet man, a man of society without a voice or mind to care about society itself. You had never bat an eye ever since senior year of high school when you suddenly out of the blue suffered from depression. You were depressed with your long life buddy cat Francis after he was euthanized for just being too old to be with life anymore and over neurological problems. You were depressed over your great aunt dying from thyroid cancer 2 months before Francis bit the dust. You were also depressed over practically nothing now. You are Marcus Summerford Green, a voice mouthing off upon oblivion of life, an entity wanting nothing but the curiosity of an indistinguished oblivion. You had wondered about death over the course of time, about the nooses around the purple neck, and the hole through the skull and the brain and out. You have pondered and decided for your supposed best. You are a man who's graduated high school and now college, walking out with a degree in the hand of the literary arts. You had a knack before with writing and strived and thrived upon your language arts skills, but now you crippled of interest. Your degree hung high upon your room with the glass collecting dust, now useless and in the dusty past. It was 2 years ago when you finally graduated from your college, and you're now 27. A 27-year-old man with eclipses for eyes and a blank bubble for your ideal upon your now breaching life. What shall you do now? You looked up at your ceiling and you were reminded that you were in your room at the dying hours of night with the ceiling light turned off. Again, nothing could be darker than this. You weren't tired at all, however, and you didn't feel like hopping into your laptop before sunrise to kill time before you then had to get ready for the day. You were slightly sluggish with the alcohol though, but you didn't go ballistic like your pals did. What a fucking night. You knew of what your friends were going to say before they would go upon a huge and delirious conversation over what happened or what didn't happen that night, while you acted and answered the bucket of questions as you knew of what happened. You were there after all. But you never did anything to be able to remember and put your scrapbook of best night ever with bros. You decided to go to a party because you had nothing else to do. Your work shift of your job you've had for 2 years was done, and you were bribed over that. Everything was on the house because one of your pals paying for everything. Your friends drank and drank, and you only took a few shots before saying you were done for the night. But you then remembered that you didn't bring your car, and you were drove there by Andy. He is the same age as you, and has shaggy dark brown hair, and almost just-looking green eyes. He had freckles on his nose that he hated, thinking it wasn't masculine at all, and was sometimes reminded by their existence by the others, leaving him to freak as they laughed. He was lazy, but also he knew his boundaries, and he wanted to make the best life for him as possible. He was reliable, and you respected him for that, and you thought him as a genuine friend. There was also Bruce, the slug of the group. He had brown eyes and a cherished smile that made you revolt over his crude existence. Why were you friends with him? You had no clue, really. Nothing seemed redeemable, to be honest. No reliance like Andy, but his laziness exceeded to over 1,000. He, like you, didn't want to do anything over his life. He wanted to be there with his friends, having a good time until the train of his lifespan falls over to the inevitable. He knew that it will happen. That's the point. Why waste life with the boringness and bleakness than you just be with what you knew? That was his perspective, while you disagreed. There had to be a reason. That's why it's life. That's why you're here. That's why you're thinking. But yet, you've decided best, and you are going to seek your own curiosity and loss. You shall go beyond the head of the world without a halo or not. You've decided to cease from your body and mind. You at this very moment are thinking of suicide. You were stirring the knotted noose you made for yourself hanging from the ceiling fan, dead to any swaying or movement. Its rope nice and fresh like a bow concealing a birthday present. You gazed through the hole of the noose, meeting eyes to your small television, seeing your sideways shelf filled with unstacked papers piling up one another, and a couple of your books that you read time to time. You were a fan of a genre of books, but at this moment you didn't want to read anymore. You've came to terms that you read enough books to enjoy and breathe in the oxygen of earth enough to. You were ready. You were ready to go beyond. You got up from your bed, and you didn't give your eyes to anything else beside your noose. You gripped upon with satisfactory. Your eyes were only loyal to your noose now. You could feel the anticipation of the pain lingering for you prior to death, but all be worth it after. What could you do to suppress your idea? Apparently, nothing now. You finally, with a final sigh and final thoughts, try to loop your head through the hole, but then realize of your stupidity and your sleeping realization. You didn't have a stool, and you couldn't reach your head through the hole to choke yourself now. Your eyebrows arched and scoffed, and then you stood there, with your only blinks upon your eyes. You stopped your daydreaming seconds later and left your room with angry disappointment over yourself. You weren't entirely sure now if you had everything to be ready or not. You looked around your house, your small house. Lonely. That was the feeling you always got. Being lonely, though, in your house. You never let people visit your house for the isolation reasons. You never had any family members either. It was a clutch to be alone. It was what you were used to, almost. Loneliness never angered or saddened you. It is what you wanted. The rooms you passed and went by to find a stool were as quiet as your room. It was sullen but mellow. You could only hear your butchering footsteps upon the wooden floor and rebuttals of the creaking along your journey, and your head lowered to see your barefooted feet and floor. There was only 2 rooms that had rugs embedded to the floor, and that is your room and your closet, which that is small too.